welcome to part 2 of the longest secret I've kept, which is for 2 years. Recap, for those of you who don't know, the biggest secret I have ever kept is that we, the Salt Shaker family, are finally going to get our own craft kit. After all these years of telling how companies are just absolutely terrible or missing important components, we get our own. Some of you said that you missed Burb, right? Burb as well. He's here, still very scruffy, but still very noisy. Yeah? Yeah, I knew it. So he's well. He says hi. All right, get back in there. Good bird. So I just wanted to take you grains with me because the vlogs you're about to see come out in the next few weeks are basically vlogs that I filmed 2 years ago and then intermittently testing the supplies, saying yes to some, no to others, and the reason why. So I'm going to be watching this vlog, which I don't remember at all, commenting on it, and watching past Jackie and commenting as future Jackie. So it's basically a reaction video to my own video of putting together the craft kit. So you will get a final reveal of everything in the box once this vlog is over. And I think we have maybe 2 or 3 more parts. So I will be releasing them very regularly, right? Yeah, you're cute. You cute bird. But you annoying, right? Yeah, he knows. So I can't explain how excited your Burb is very excited. I'm excited on so many different levels, and I hope actually you done? Are you stealing my thunder? Yeah, you're stealing my thunder, bird. We May I speak? Oh, all right, now that Burb is in bed, I can let you grains know that I am probably the most excited. I know I don't look it, I'm very neutral face, but I am the most excited I've been in the longest time to bring everything that we've shared together, our humor, our love of crafts, our love of just having fun, and putting it all into a box together. And I couldn't be happier than doing it with Smart Art Box, who are the same people who did the Jazza boxes. So if you're wondering what the box is, well, it's not exactly the same, but in terms of quality, it's basically going to be the same idea. Not concept, not craft, not anything, because our craft box is going to be very different. Jazza and I are very different in terms of how we conceptualize things, but quality, both of us are sticklers to quality. So that's why I went with Smart Art Box, and I can't wait to share it with you grains. It is a limited quantity, so we don't have that many that are out. So it will be, of course, first come, first get, but we will have it open for about 6 to 8 weeks. So that way, many of you will have a chance to order. And if there is more demand than what we have, we will most likely order more, but again, it will be a limited time. So of course, once it comes out, be sure to be quick. It will be announced on my main channel once it is out. Just putting it out there. But again, if we're missing context, the idea is you are getting a blank figure, similarly to how I did my first Sofubi inspired character. And then I added clay onto it to make it a custom figure. That's exactly what I'm testing. If you haven't seen it, go back. Go watch part 1 because it's going to make way more sense. If you're jumping just straight onto part 2, it doesn't make any sense. Watch part 1, get back to part 2, and it's going to make way more sense why I'm putting this clay on a piece of plaster. That's important. The piece of plaster is one of the most important pieces. So if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that this vlog is basically me obviously choosing the right clay, but if I remember correctly, on the same day I did the clay, I also did the base of the figure in the box. So in case you don't remember from the first video, I did say there is going to be a mold. And that mold is a sculpture that I sculpted, and then we shipped it to Sophie and Toffee because they make amazing molds from their mold makers. So we had it done at the exact same place because I love Sophie and Toffee quality molds. So we got it done there. Each box will have that exclusive mold that was sculpted by me. And it took so many hours. I would say that one, you know what? Let's just keep going. Let's watch past Jackie and what she had to say. So here we go. This Sculpey, Super Sculpey, sent to me by Ace of Clay. He was very convinced that I absolutely need to try this clay. Look at all that smushing. Really wanted me to try it. So we're gonna try this clay. Cooperate. No! So just to clarify, yes, this clay was sent to me by Ace of Clay, a really good friend of mine. And he's like, okay, Jackie, you need to try Super Sculpey, because the last time I tried Super Sculpey, it was just crumbly and I didn't enjoy it. But he's like, trust me, I will get you a fresh one. Try it, you will love it. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna try it. So this is me and the first time I try Super Sculpey, because I'm used to using the other Sculpey. Okay, let's take this piece and see. I don't hate that much. By the way, don't mind all the paint in my hand. I just finished one of the projects, and yeah, that's definitely, just to give you an idea, this is from the Parrot Chooses My Squishy video. So this clay feels, oh, that is a long time ago. Interesting. Okay. It feels really nice. It's pretty firm, but still pretty soft. Okay, Ace of Clay, you were right. You were right. It does feel nice. You don't have to knead it for too long. And that was one of the things I really wanted in the clay that we were going to put in the box. As someone who has a lot of health issues, I have arthritic pains and dislocated thumbs. I hate it when clay is so hard that you need a specialty machine to make it soft again. Yes, there's a machine out there that costs $300 just to make your clay soft again. I'm looking at you, Fimo, and sometimes Primo Sculpey. Primo Sculpey gets hard very quickly, but yeah, mostly Fimo clay is really hard to work with. So my thing was, it has to be fresh and it has to be soft enough so that you can start working with it immediately. And Super Sculpey did that for me. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Super Sculpey and see if we can get this clay to stick on, because as it is, usually it won't stick, but let's try some liquid Sculpey. Put it here and let's pretend I'm going to make, I don't know, a peak, and then swirl it around. Get your minds out of the gutter, please. Please, just bear with me. Bear with me. Okay, so let's say this is the one with the Sculpey and its smooth surface. And let's make a little bit of a scuff mark over here, if it absolutely needs any kind of scuff mark. Put a little bit of the liquid liquid clay, and see if it makes a difference whether or not we have a scuff mark. And for this, I think I'll have to do maybe an X for scuffage, but we'll do it like a standing X. Let's pretend these are limbs. Grains, please. Oh, that's not sticking. Okay, I'm just gonna do like that, like a tongue. Man, this fleshy clay is just so innuendo-y. That's so true. I'm just looking at this clay, I'm like, don't think dirty thoughts, don't think dirty thoughts. But that's all I can see with that flesh type beigey clay. It's hard not to. I'm just gonna put it out there. I am not doing anything innuendo-y. It doesn't look like an innuendo, but it, you know what, I can't convince you. This fleshy clay just kind of makes it so that it does. Okay, let's just pretend it's not fleshy clay, because if it was green or blue, it would just be shapes. But at this point, it's fleshy. I'm gonna shove it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and we'll see the result of how well it sticks. All right, so here's our fleshy weirdness. Okay, stab it. All right, it's had sufficient time to cool down. Luckily, this actually did not react one bit in the oven. That is absolutely wonderful news. So now let's see what amount of, oh, that came out very easily. Interesting. So the idea behind doing those lines to put the clay on top of it was similar to when you're doing pottery. You do something called scoring, and then you stick the clay right on top of it in order to create a suction. And I did put also liquid Sculpey, so Bacon Bond, but it didn't want anything to do with it. So the good news is you don't need to make scuff marks on your clay when you're making your figure. So with a little bit of pressure, it came right off. And this one, oh, same amount of pressure, this is not coming off, which means for a figure, that's weird. So making scuff marks seems to have made this, well, this here weaker. Interesting. Probably because the scuff marks ended up leaving like powder residue, whereas here, see, it took a lot more pressure for me to push it right off. That's really interesting. So I really love the fact that I did this test, because I completely forgot that I did that. So you don't need to make scuff marks, because the powder from the actual plaster is going to end up making your piece less bonded. But for the second piece, I really did put a lot of pressure. It seems like the editing was done so that it didn't seem, but I did put a lot of pressure to push it. Again, these figures are supposed to be for display. They're not a toy, they're heavy. They're made out of plaster. So for sure, you're fine, unless you really want to push your figure hard. Lesson, do not make scuff marks. Next lesson, this is pretty good. Remember, these are not toys that you play with. These are there for display. But worst case scenario, oh my gosh. Past Jackie and future Jackie seem to have agreed. That's good to know. I am not in conflict with myself. If it does pop off, but again, I put quite a bit more pressure than this one. This one, I just have to touch it. Worst case scenario, if it's something like that, it can easily be glued right back on. Especially it's gonna take the shape. It's gonna be okay. It stays on during the oven baking and all that stuff. I'm going to do a second bake now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have it stand and I'm gonna put like a piece of clay here. I'm curious to see if it's gonna stand up. But in the meantime, we need to make our figure. This is the most important part because in the box, in addition to getting the high quality things from both Sculpey and Sophie and Toffee, there's going to be a limited edition handmade sculpture that I'm going to make that's going to be turned into a mold. So you would be getting the mold of the sculpture of the figure base. Does that make sense? Remember, kind of like the Mooney Kid robot type figures and all the different blank vinyl toys, I'm just creating the canvas where you grains can modify. So there's kind of so many of this. Hey, hang on. Like if you go on AliExpress, they sell hundreds of different kinds of these kinds of vinyl figures. I mean, they sell a lot. See, they have different kinds of bases. So the whole shape is not a copyright kind of thing. So I want to create a base that's going to be solid at the bottom. And then that's, you know, pretty much easy to customize. So it's going to be a blank figure, but in chibi format. So we need to start creating some shapes. I'm gonna make tiny mock-ups and see if I can make them bigger. So what I was trying to say is there's a limited edition mold in there too. So drawing inspiration from all the different kinds of vinyl figures out there, one of the first things I realized is that the bodies usually kind of have either a square, rectangle, or kind of teardrop shape. And I'll be honest, I kind of like in between the teardrop and the square. I'm not too fond of a long body, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to do something in between, kind of like this one though, because we can add a lot more to that. This one here, the body is kind of like chubby, so that was one of the things that I found very restrictive, is that the body had to be chubby, whereas here, if I wanted to make a bit of a belly, I have that choice. Otherwise, I might have to go for something a little more like that. So we're working back in miniatures. This is old school NerdEcrafter. So kind of a little squeezed on the side, and we'll have the bottom just be a little more flat. Now I just want to be clear again that the mold for the figure that you're getting is not this small. This thing here, this small thing, is just a mock-up. It's for me to know what position to put the arms and the legs and the head and all that stuff. It's not that tiny, I promise you. It's like this big, okay? You know what? I will show you the mold at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. So this could be a good base for the body. It has a little bit of a curve so that the figure is not too static. By the way, the figure is not going to be this tiny. It's going to be a decent size, so about, I would say the size of a finger, probably. These are just mock-ups. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to make a figure. So I think this is probably a good body shape. I love the curve here, which gives it kind of like a bad boy, bad girl pose, or bad creature kind of pose, like sitting there. And again, looking at the bottom shapes of the legs, we have stubby round legs, and then we have square type. I'm not crazy about the square type legs. This is a little too, the issue with that one is that, I don't know, I just don't like the balance on this. It feels like it could be lopsided. So either between, you know what? I kind of really like the chubby short legs because then you can customize it. If you remember my sculpture, I started to add little feet to it, which makes it easier. I think the round shape makes it so much easier to be adding anything to it. So these are pretty good mock-ups. Now we're just gonna put it down, squish it just a little more, and oh yes. Oh, I like that quite a bit. Not only does it have nice little stubby legs, but we have again the curved pose, and it can stand on its own. Look at that. So far, so good. Balance was really important for me. So you'll see that in the ones that I made, having it stand on its own straight out of the mold, some sanding may be required because it is plaster. The balance is spot on. It is not wobbly. It is not fragile.
In British English, fragile. In American, fragile.
It is not wobbly. Basically, it stands on its own. That was really important for me to make sure that balance was there. Again, it depends. If you start adding heavier horns, of course it's going to fall forward. If you add a heavier tail. So after you start sculpting, you're going to have to make sure that the balance is there when you're sculpting. But at least the figure itself does give you a solid base. All right, back to the head. Now that's going to be, for me, I think it's going to be a little more simpler than this because I didn't like the fact that the Mooney figures had ears because it was presumptuous that I wanted ears here. What if I wanted bunny ears or kitty ears or just ram horns instead of ears? So I'm definitely not going with that idea. Yeah, I hated the fact that the other ones came with ears though. That just made everything so much more difficult. If I'm not mistaken, I ended up covering the ears. You know what? Here's the sophobie that I made. I ended up covering the ears with fins. It was a good base to have there, but it's nothing that wires couldn't have done. It just forced me to have them there. I guess it's forced creativity, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it wasn't what I was going for. This is obviously way too blocky. It's just not giving any freedom. And then we have this one, which is just way too modified. I mean, this is cool if you just want to paint it, but if you want to customize, I think having ears was a little too much. Having the head square is just not that great. So we're gonna go somewhere kind of in between where it would be a round head with a slight muzzle, but not human-like. Not too human-like. And again, if we notice, the heads seem to be as big as the bodies. See, if you look at the size, it's about the same for most of these. That seems about right. And I'm just gonna push a little more, kind of like so. So it can be anything. It could be turned really into anything. Obviously the bigger versions are gonna take way longer because I have to sand it. I have to make sure that it's absolutely smooth. I have to remove every imperfection. But I think this is pretty good. Actually, after I made the mold and had it sent to the mold makers, they ended up, instead of, well, they used my mold to do a 3D print of it, and then they smoothed it out in the 3D making program. So it was smooth making, well, I can't talk anymore. I'm so excited on so many levels. They took the sculpture that I made, which was, you know, this big, and then they rendered it onto their computers, used a computer program to make it smooth and seamless. Well, there's gonna still be like the seams where the mold is, but I mean like the shape itself is beautiful. And I do change the head later on. You'll see. So far as a base. We don't want eye sockets, because what if you don't want to do eyes? Kind of like so. That is way too, I don't know, I don't like this. We have to condense this part here. This proportion maybe. Back to the drawing board. Oh no. I got really Hunchback of Notre Dame type vibes. And for those of you French grains, you know, Hunchback of Notre Dame, okay? I know Notre Dame. I feel like so far we might be getting somewhere, but it's starting to look kind of like a marshmallow creature. Although it's not a bad shape, we'll have to keep building on that. All right, so even though I told myself I'm not sure, remember this is a mock-up, I'm not sure if I wanted to pose or not, but the more I think about it, the more, since this is not a posable figure, maybe one outstretched hand could be kind of cool. And my reasoning for that is probably if you wanted to, you can probably make a custom weapon or something that it could be holding, like a treasure. So there could be like a little bit more storytelling since we can't really make them posable. That's something I have to think about. We'll find out once the end result is in the box, because I have a lot of decisions to make. Oh, and by the way, this is out of the oven, and it did sustain the weight. It didn't break, it didn't fall off in the oven. So again, I didn't do with the score marks. Amount of pressure is fine. I have to push it really hard. There you go. So you see the amount of pressure to get it off of there is quite a bit. And of course, if you put any kind of pressure on anything, it will end up moving to a certain extent. But I'm really happy that the amount of pressure we're putting on this is quite a lot, which means it'll be fine. If you make a tail and bake it onto the figure, it will stay there. Which means that, but hang on, I'm interrupting myself. So you do need to use the bacon bond though. That's important. You absolutely must use the bacon bond, which will come in the kit too. I got you covered. It's a match. What's this under my nail? Oh my god, there's paint everywhere. But yeah, that's good news. Don't make score marks if you want it to stick much longer. With that said, I think that's it for behind the scenes. That's it behind the scenes, but now I get to show you the actual mold. Wait here. just wait right here. I'll be right back. It's not that far off. It is right around the corner. Should I show you my messy? I'll show you my messy one because that means I used it. I know I'm off screen and mine is pretty messy. So here's the mold of the figure you grains are going to get. These are sneak peeks. Anyone who's not watching this vlog has no idea of the mold you are getting. So it is quite a big one. It's as big as my face. And as you can see on the inside, it is messy because I used it. And here's the fun part. Okay, so here's the figure. Here's what it's gonna look like. And it is a dynamic pose. But I'm gonna explain more of that once you see it in person. But since you grains are here, let me just clean up my mold here. I'm gonna get closer because I want to show you what I did. So this is the back part of the mold. I'm explaining this to you because I am so excited. This mold has 2 holes in the back. So if you want to make wings, there are slots in there where you can put the wire to make the wings. And there's another slot so you can put another piece of wire in there and you can make your tail. That way it has more support to stick on the actual figure. Do you want to see what the figure actually looks like? Hang on, let me just get the focus going. Okay, hang on. hang on. I got this. I'm gonna show you not a completely done one. I'm so excited. This mold that you're getting can be used with plaster, like you're getting in the clay, in the kit. It can be used with resin. It can basically be used in any way that you want that a silicone mold would be good for. Of course, if you're going to use it for food, don't use it with crafts, and so on and so forth. So, oh my gosh, this is the reveal. Here is the, well, I didn't finish. I ran out of plaster because I was doing tests. But here is the base of the figure that you will be getting that is exclusively made by me and exclusively in this kit that you can reuse as many times as you want. So the pose is dynamic. It can work straight ahead, or if you want your character to be standing sideways, you can put the face on the side, or you can put the face on this side. So it's really a blank canvas. This character can look in any direction, and that's exactly what I wanted it to look like. It can look from you this way, it can look that way, it can look from up top. The pose is so dynamic, it works in any direction you want it to look. So it doesn't have to just look at you straight on. Even though it's not poseable, the pose itself, I worked 8 long hours, hang on, I'm gonna sit down, sculpting it, refining it, testing it, and then sending it to the mold makers, and then having more modifications done so that it is perfect in every angle that you would want it. Even the hands are great in any angle that you want. So this is like one of the most exciting and exclusive pieces in the kit that you get to play with and fill it up with as much as you want past the kit. This can be used for as long as you take care of it. That's like one of the best things for me with a kit, is that it doesn't just come with a mold that is going to go bad after a few tries, after a few days, or after 3 times you actually, it's damaged somehow. I've done a lot of tests on these and they have endured my testing. So now you have an actual sneak peek of the mold that is exclusive in there and is only going to be available in that box. My sweat and tears going into working on this, because I restarted at least 10 to 15 times remaking it. The small one was okay. I wasn't satisfied, so I just kept making it over and over and over again. And guess what? It says NerdEcrafter right under it. So this is a copyrighted piece of art that I made for us. And so that is it for part 2. I can't wait to show you the box that just arrived and we're gonna go through the paints. I don't know, I'm having fun reacting to old videos of me, so I'm really hoping you're having fun watching me react and give the process of our craft kit. So I will be announcing it more officially on the main channel. So as soon as that video is out, make sure that you do pick up yours ASAP, because again, this is limited quantities. We are only going to be open for pre-orders from, I want to say 1st of June, but we might be delayed by a couple of weeks because we're waiting for some of our partners to be, ready. But don't be worried. So limited quantities, yes, but we will be taking pre-orders up until July. So let's say we do sell out of the first batch. If there's enough interest, we will make sure that some of you grains have the ability to get them as much as possible. So let's go! Part 3 is gonna come out next week, so stay tuned for that. I don't know what the next vlog is about, but we'll watch it together and react with past Jackie. I'll see you grains in the next video.